Our viewers, welcome again to the Entrepreneur TV show. My name is Lucien Jeffrey. I'm very grateful to have you for the last 5 years, showcasing entrepreneurs and great people in this country, in this province. And today, as you have seen in the introduction there, we are so excited to let you know that we've been able to get time with the minister. And as I turn the screen, we'll be able to have Minister Todd McCarthy with us. And really, he owns a great ministry and is going to talk to us more about what he's doing to help Ontarians. Hello, Minister. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Lucy. So good to be on your show. It's a real honor. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. I know how busy you are, and I've been able to synchronize my time and your time and the time with your press secretary. I appreciate your team so much, and I appreciate you for finding the time to be with us.
Well, I have a great team, and I couldn't do my job without them. They're a great group of dedicated professionals.
Awesome, great. So, Minister, we will not take much of your time because I know the entire province needs you. So we'll just spend a bit of time with you. But before we dive into the ministry and your responsibilities there, I think we want to know you a little bit more. I know Ontarians know you, but we prefer to hear it from you. I know you are a lawyer. Tell us a little bit more about you as a lawyer and why you decided to go into politics.
Well, first and foremost, I've been married to the wonderful Kathy McCarthy, Kathy Azzoparty, for 37 years. We met 43 years ago this month as teenagers, and we have 3 adult children, Megan, Brendan, and Jake. And Megan is, my eldest is a lawyer, and Brendan is with TSN as a story editor, and young Jake is our special needs boy. And Kathy was a dedicated professional as a psychometrist with our local school board in Durham for over 30 years, as well as being a great mom and a wonderful wife. So yes, I am a lawyer. I still am a lawyer, but I practiced for 33 years. After being called to the Bar of Ontario in 1989, I practiced as a trial lawyer, but I also served as a deputy judge for a decade in Durham Region. And I also was an adjunct professor both at Durham College and Queen's University Law School. I was president of the Durham Law Association and did a lot of teaching and mentoring in terms of members of the legal profession. Proud to do so. I was also a school trustee for Durham. I was vice chair and trustee of the Durham Separate School Board, as it was then called. Now it's called the Durham Catholic District School Board. And I was elected to provincial parliament for the first time on June 2nd, 2022. And very proud to represent the riding of Durham at Queen's Park.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. You see, we will never have known all the deeper details, including your family. And I like it when guests come here and recognize their families. Because you know what? We can't be successful without the support of everyone around us. And thank you for recognizing that.
That's for sure.
Thank you. So, Minister, then I'll dive into your ministry. You carry a very huge responsibility. And I even wonder how you do it. But I think as a lawyer, there's nothing that is too big to do, right? So let me ask you then, in this big ministry, can you tell us a little bit, it's your priorities for the ministry right now?
Well, it's the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement is the full name and the long name of the ministry. It's traditionally been known as the Ministry of Government Services in the past. But its current name is Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement. It has many aspects to it. It's a real honor. I was very, very honored to be asked by Premier Ford to serve in this ministry just over a year ago. And over the course of the last year, my team and I can tell you about many accomplishments. First, consumer protection for a digital age. We tabled the Bill 142, Better for Consumers, Better for Businesses Act, updating and in fact completely overhauling the statutory and regulatory framework around consumer protection for a digital age. But again, that great balance, better for consumers, better for businesses Act, that received royal assent December 6, 2023, was unanimously passed in the House. So I'm very proud about that. So as a result, then you can see that consumer protection is a huge part of my ministry's mandate. In addition, building infrastructure safely. That act, Bill 153, was tabled in the early part of 2024 also received unanimous consent. It was about banning locate fees and indeed building infrastructure safely. So my ministry was responsible for removing a lot of the red tape and regulation, streamlining the process for determining locates as we build the Ontario of tomorrow, whether we're building highways, infrastructure, schools, hospitals, public transit, or new homes. We need to make sure we know what we're doing before we dig. So call before we dig. The one call administrative authority is within my ministry's jurisdiction, and we tabled legislation to update the underground infrastructure system process, and we've achieved great results just since that act was passed several months ago, again unanimously in the House. Very proud of that. And then in the spring, we tabled and rapidly moved to conclusion the abolition of notices of security interests. These were nosies or consumer liens that were plaguing our seniors in particular and our vulnerable citizens here in Ontario with scams, quite frankly, criminal abuse, organized crime with respect to putting lien-like instruments against the properties of homeowners, tying up their equity and sometimes stealing their equity outright. So again, with the leadership of my ministry toward consumer protection, regulating the Land Registry Office, we abolished existing notices of security interest from the Land Registry and prohibited the further registration of such instruments going forward. That became law June the 6th, 2024, after unanimous passage in the House. So consumer protection, Service Ontario, another big feature of what we do. The face of government is the Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement through Service Ontario. This is for individuals, for families, and for businesses as they interact with government, whether it's online or in person. So we have many different models that we use for the in-person. We have, of course, the government-run operations. We have the small business operations. We have municipal and Indigenous partnerships. We have mobile trucks or units in Northern Ontario and in Indigenous communities. And we have the retail partnerships with Canadian Tire, IDA, Home Hardware, and more recently, Staples Canada. And then there's our 55 products and services that are available online 24/7 through Service Ontario. And of course, our Ontario Business Registry, which allows businesses to work with and interact with government more efficiently and effectively. So we're very, very proud of that. So service for the people, service for the businesses, large and small in Ontario, knowing that the best thing that government can do is make life easier, not only for our families and our individual citizens and residents, but also for our businesses, which are the backbone of our economy, for sure. As the Premier often says, our job is to remove the red tape and regulation and get out of the way so that businesses can flourish, to create the conditions that allow businesses to prosper, particularly our small businesses, our job creators. And that's what we're doing as a government, and my ministry is very much responsible for that. So it's basically public safety, consumer protection. We have an array of administrative authorities, 12 administrative authorities. That includes the TSSA that regulates the safety of elevators and amusement parks. There's and RECO, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, which regulates the real estate industry, make sure that when it comes to the Home Construction Regulatory Authority, and Tarion, that when people are making the biggest purchase of their lives, they know that the government has their backs. So I'm very, very proud of the reach and the success of my ministry in serving the people of this province.
I am very, very impressed by that, Minister. Your ministry is really wide. I didn't know all the details, but let me tell you why I reached out to you to feature you on this show is when you started protecting the senior citizens with these liens. I didn't even understand it properly, but I think you know that I serve so many lawyers within the entrepreneur nation, so I kept asking them, what is this the minister is talking about? So when they explained to me, that's when I said, I would like you to explain our viewers personally, and I thank you for doing that. So let me ask you quickly then, your ministry is really large. How do you make sure that the service delivery efficiency, effectiveness is being achieved for Ontarians to be able to be able to get access to great service?
Well, it starts with listening and ongoing consultations with individuals, consumer advocates, seniors groups, and business organizations, chambers of commerce, and boards of trade. And I meet with all of them across the province. But even above and beyond what I do on a direct basis, my excellent ministry officials are constantly looking for ways, as they listen and engage in outreach, how we can improve services, how we can make it better. The retail partnerships, and this, Lucy, is a nonpartisan issue. It was a previous Liberal government that introduced retail partnerships to the Service Ontario model. And that began in 2010 with the Canadian Tire, IDA, and Home Hardware having Service Ontario locations within their stores. And that was so well received with extended hours, Saturday hours. And we've then built upon that as a progressive conservative government with the addition of Staples Canada. So now our retail partnership model in the busy venues of Southern Ontario have the appointment booking process, have extended hours on weeknights and all day Saturdays. That's an improvement of service. So it reduces wait times when you can have appointment booking and longer hours and more convenient hours. It's putting the customer first. And that model isn't the only model, of course. In Northern Ontario and in Indigenous communities, we've introduced mobile units or trucks, that Service Ontario trucks that move about a community and to bring the service to the people. That model works in Northern Ontario and in Indigenous communities in a way that it wouldn't work in Southern Ontario. But the retail partnership model works in the busy urban and suburban centers. But we have a history of a multitude of models in Ontario that goes back to toward the end of the First World War. Over 100 years ago, our government began the process, or a previous government began the process of different models for Service Ontario. So the private run operation of Service Ontario centers in some parts of the province began over 100 years ago. Every party that's ever formed government at Queen's Park has embraced alternative service delivery models, and my ministry just continues to build on it. And I've only talked about the in-person because people often need to or want to go in person. But of course, 24/7 online, we have 55 products now that can be accessed online. And that includes health card renewals for our much needed healthcare access. That can be done online from the comfort of your own home. That's important for our seniors to be able to do that if they can't visit a Service Ontario in person. So the online 24/7, 365 days of the year is very, very important. Access 24/7, 365 days a year is very important. Again, that's 55 products for Service Ontario. So it's not, digital first doesn't mean digital only. You have to have both. We can't be offline in an online world, and that's true for Service Ontario. But again, it puts the customer first, it puts convenience first, and it continues to improve access because we're the face of government. We are the ministry through whom most of our citizens and residents, more often than not, interact with their government, and that includes businesses large and small.
Thank you, Minister. I'm sure you know that I came from another country. I came from Kenya. I'm a citizen now. When I look at the services that we get in this country, I'm very, very happy to call myself Canadian. And I'm very happy to actually call myself Ontarian. Thank you that you are the one who is working behind the scenes to get this done. Thank you so much.
Yes. So most of our good work doesn't make headlines, but we're just happy to get the positive feedback from our fellow citizens and residents about how convenient their interaction with government is. We long gone are the days where you need some cathedral type building to come and interact with government. You can do it online. You can do it with a retail partnership. You can do it with a mobile unit. And, we even have the 5-in-1 bundle for families with newborns, where from the comfort of your own home, you can register the child's birth. You can apply for your birth certificate. You can get your social insurance number, which is federal. You can enroll in the education savings plan for your child. And so the 5-in-1 bundle means you're accessing provincial government level of services alongside federal all at once. And again, that's the kind of convenience we can offer from the comfort of one's home at a time when you want to be at home with your newborn and you want that family time and you want to be able to access both levels of government services online. And that's particularly true for such an important and life-changing event as the birth of a new child, the welcoming of a new baby. So we're very proud of the 5-in-1 newborn bundle.
Thank you, Minister. I think you have thought about everything, right? And I think 30 minutes will not be enough for us to break down everything. We might call you again, but that's why we wanted to give you more time because, as you said, I remember I worked at TD Bank and I was the supervisor on the escalation line. Out of 60 calls a day, I probably got 3 calls of people saying thank you. Thank you
That's
for
great.
the great service. The rest of the calls were complaints.
Don't forget about our upcoming bills. So we've had 3 bills passed unanimously that I've already told you about. Bill 194 is underway. On May the 13th, I tabled Bill 194, the strengthening cyber security, the strengthening security in the public sector and building trust Act 2024. Very proud of this piece of legislation. I commenced government leadoff debate, second reading debate on May the 28th, and we are on track to continue second reading debate as we go back to the House later this month. And I hope and believe that it will be well received by all parties in the House. It's an excellent bill that was many years in the making, but it's about very important principles, Bill 194. So watch for Bill 194, the Strengthening Cybersecurity and Enhancing Trust in the Public Sector Act 2024. We lead with an enterprise-wide definition of artificial intelligence. We lead with cybersecurity, an enterprise-wide definition of cybersecurity for the public sector and broader public sector. We lead with the protection of children and protecting their privacy and data. So it's a very, very important piece of legislation, and I've shared it with my colleagues across the country, most recently at the Newfoundland and Labrador Cybersecurity Conference for all federal, provincial, and territorial government leaders. I was there. I shared the contents of Bill 194 with my colleagues, and I'm ready to work with all of the other governments across Canada and the federal government to protect children, to make sure that artificial intelligence is used and deployed on a principled basis. No AI in secret, Lucy. Accountability, always subject to good human judgment. And we need to build trust. The Act contains the word trust, right? So enhancing cybersecurity, but also trust, because many people are unsure about AI. They're unsure about what happens with cyber attacks. So the best thing that we can do is to build trust, responsible, accountable, transparent deployment of artificial intelligence in the public sector and the broader public sector, leading with hospitals, school boards, and children's aid societies, because those are part of the broader public sector where children are the most affected. So to be effective, we must indeed protect the children first and foremost and build the trust from there. That's what we're doing with Bill 194, and I look forward to engaging with members of the House and hopefully the committee process that would follow if the bill passes second reading to get continued input from the public. I think the rest of the country is looking to Ontario to lead on the regulation and the creation of safeguards with respect to AI, with the centralized reporting of cyber incidents across the public sector and broader public sector, with enshrining whistleblower protection with the Information and Privacy Commissioner, because if you see something, you got to say something when it comes to cyber incidents involving ransomware or phishing. And so we all have a duty to work together, but Ontarians and Canadians can know that the Ontario government is leading and has their backs and will lead by example with Bill 194, and honored to have that also as part of my portfolio. You know, I say, Lucy, who knew that a lawyer like me who wore 19th century gowns to court for 30 years is now responsible for shepherding through the House this AI and cybersecurity legislation for 2024. It's a great honor and a great responsibility, but also a great opportunity, because there are many, many improvements in civil society and in our lives and in our work and in our education that will be enhanced by AI deployment. We just need to build the trust, and we need to show how it can be life-changing for the better, while erecting the safeguards that are so necessary. Government has the lead role in that regard, and we're taking it very seriously.
Thank you, Minister. And actually, being a lawyer, it's a good thing for you because you can analyze from a legal perspective and see if it makes sense or not for the province. Thank you. You have touched on technology and innovation, and I add that. So thank you that you actually have everything there. So I wanted then to move and talk about specifics on accessibility and inclusivity. I would like you to talk specifically about how you are helping people with disability and what efforts you are making to make sure that the underserved communities, although you mentioned Northern Ontario, but are there other underserved communities that you're looking at, Minister?
Well, ours is the most inclusive government, I think, in Ontario history. That is clear from the makeup of our government caucus and our cabinet. And I'm so proud to be part of this team because it really does represent the face of modern Ontario and modern Canada. At the same time, our government across all ministries is committed to access to government services, to enabling and enhancing all that government can do, and to really be a shining beacon, a shining example, not only for government, but also for the private sector. I'm a founding donor at the Ability Center where my son Jake attends. That's due to the legacy of Jim Flaherty and his wife Christine, and all of the partners that made that possible. We all have to work together. But what I can say is that the online Service Ontario products are really about creating access. Our retail partnerships are about creating access. No Staples Canada, Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, IDA store would be able to offer Service Ontario products without being accessible for people with what I like to say are different abilities, like my son Jake. Jake is differently abled. He's not disabled. So all access depends on respecting and enhancing accessibility for all, whether it's online and what that allows for 24/7, 365 days a year, or whether it's in person. We must have that ability to make sure that all citizens and residents, regardless of their different abilities, can have access. And that requires education, it requires commitment, it requires a team approach. And I congratulate my ministry officials for all of the rollouts they've made with Service Ontario products and services to ensure that all Ontarians, regardless of their different abilities, can access government services and products and interact with government.
Thank you, sir. I really like how you are putting it, that it's not disability, but they are differently. Can you repeat that again to our viewers? Differently abled? They have different. How did you put it?
I say that like my son Jake has many abilities. He has obviously faced many challenges, having he's on the autism spectrum. He's developmentally delayed at the age of 26. He also lost his leg to cancer like Terry Fox. So he had osteosarcoma and he has a prosthetic limb. So, but he has many abilities. And like so many Ontarians, like all of us, we all have different abilities. And that is what we must celebrate. And when it comes to government, we serve all of the people. And Service Ontario is designed to serve all of the people, both online and in person. That's why we offer different models, both in person and online. And I'm very proud of that. And I congratulate my ministry officials and my team here at the ministry for that. And the leadership of Premier Ford, quite frankly, because it begins with his leadership, his trust in me in this portfolio, and his trust in my team in this portfolio, knowing that we serve all of the people.
Thank you, Minister. When I listen to you, I can see you have qualifications in all areas. You're actually placed in this ministry with relevant experiences, and thank you for sharing the story about your son, because then I know you can relate and you want all these Ontarians to be served properly. Thank you. Now, let me specifically, Minister, you know I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a very passionate entrepreneur. Please, can you speak to us about businesses and the services specifically you're offering to the businesses, how you are helping businesses with the regulatory burden?
I will. I think we're going to be helping them with Bill 194, but particularly the OBR, the Ontario Business Registry, and the At Your Service Act, with the regulation that puts into place requirements for all ministries to create processes that are accountable and are subject to report back on what businesses can expect when they're interacting with government. Yes is always great. No is not welcome, but what's worse than no is delay and not knowing and uncertainty. So what governments must do across all ministries in serving particularly our small business community is, when can I expect this permit? When can I expect this license? I qualify, but there doesn't seem to be an answer. It should be yes, but they're telling me it's a year or whatever. That's just not acceptable. Businesses, big and small, need to know through the OBR and their interactions with government and the act aptly named At Your Service Act. We serve the people. We serve the backbone of our economy, the small businesses and the job creators of our province. They need to know what they can expect in terms of timeline, and then they can make their plans. Businesses can take no for an answer, but they can't take no answer or no idea when there's going to be a process in place for them to get what they need to carry on their vital business activities, which is, of course, what brings prosperity and job creation to our province. But I was going to say, I mentioned Bill 194, which I also think will help both citizens and residents, but also businesses large and small, when it comes to guidance on the deployment of AI in a responsible, transparent way, and centralizes cybersecurity incidents across government. But I want to make sure I've got the name right. So I've got Bill 194 right in front of me, and I want to make sure I've got the name. I have the number right, Lucy, but it's the the Strengthening Cybersecurity and Building Trust in the Public Sector Act 2024. That's the official name. Now it contains two schedules, and that's where I was mixing words. But Schedule 1 is an act to enact the Enhancing Digital Security and Trust Act 2024. Schedule 2 is, of course, the amendments to the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. But the entire act, Bill 194, is styled as Strengthening Cybersecurity and Building Trust in the Public Sector Act 2024. Think about that. Strengthening cybersecurity. We all need to work together to enhance cybersecurity across the public sector and the broader public sector. And we need to build trust. So trust is embedded in this proposed legislation, because if we don't have trust, then the public will not be with us. But we do have the trust. We're building the trust, and we're doing that by leading with the protection of our children.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Minister. I really appreciate everything you have said. As we come to an end of this show, and I believe we'll get you back again, we can't cover everything in 30 minutes.
Be happy to.
Yes. So let me ask you, the ministry is doing a lot, but how are you working with stakeholders, the public stakeholders? But I hope that your ministry is not forgetting as the private stakeholders. And I appreciate, because I'm in the private sector and you agreed to speak to us today. So how are you working with all those stakeholders, Honorable Minister?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm doing it by going all over the province of Ontario, north and south and east and west, to meet with small businesses in particular, to meet with boards of trade and chambers of commerce, and to meet with all the participants that come to those discussions, those roundtables across the province. That is a listening exercise for me. It's a chance to engage with the very bright people, the very bright leaders and capable leaders and dedicated leaders in our private sector and in academia and generally in civil society. It's by going out there, as Premier Ford often says, Queen's Park is a bit of a bubble. So this is where the precinct is. This is where the capital is in Toronto. But we have to go out to the people and listen to the people. And that's how we do our job well, by listening.
Thank you, Minister. We are coming to an end, and I'm very happy to learn all this from you. We can't learn enough from Google, so we better learn from you, and thank you for that. We might call you again. But before we end this show, would you have one or two final words for Ontarians?
Yes, as the late Jim Flaherty told a class at the University of Western Ontario just over a decade ago, public service is good for you. Public service in all its forms, volunteering in your community, seeking elected office. My parents taught me that giving back through service is the most important thing we can do as members of civil society. And my ministry is all about service. So I'm very proud to serve and honored to have the trust and confidence of the Premier in that regard. And hopefully, and I see it, all of the people I meet in this position are definitely affirming what we're doing. And I'm very, very honored by that.
Thank you, Minister. We appreciate your time so much. And our viewers, thank you so much for watching.